friends. Leigh Brown here, and this is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, we're going to hear from somebody who used a real estate professional. So be prepared to hear what Christine Miles has to share. And for those of y'all that have found yourselves needing a little help in this department, she's a pro on listening. I wrote down a page of notes. You're going to love this conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. So I'm excited to have you today. And honestly, I know that my audience, which is part realtors and part regular people, it can all use a little dose of Christine today. So tell them a little bit about you and your specialty and how you came to this space today.
Well, I can tell you my backstory is that I had a mom who, I grew up in Hershey, so very rural area, pretty idyllic childhood in many ways, but I had a mom who had psychological issues that she came by very honestly. She lost her mother from being born. So she was, right? So that sets you up for some heartache. And I was the girl in the family, so I came in to be the kind of the surrogate that she never had. So burden in that, but the gift was I learned to pay attention to pain that lived below the surface because my mother was very beautiful and warm and charismatic and loving. So I saw the good and also this kind of sadness. So I learned to pay attention to what wasn't said.
Which might be a super important skill to have right now as we come to the other side of these god-awful COVID policies, which have taken some people that were fine and cast them into a tailspin, and some people who were on the edge of fine and cast them into a tailspin, and some people who thought they had it together and cast them into a tailspin because it's been such a challenging space to be in. So your experience, I would think, is more relevant now than it ever would have been.
It's part of why I wrote the book last year. I wrote it in May of last year and published in October because I thought the world was ready to hear it in a way that they had never been ready before. I had been injured in an auto accident when I was 28. So I was kind of on the uptick of my career. I was playing competitive sports and my life turned on a dime. And I knew what that could do to you when your world shut down. What was weird for me is that it was such a universal truth. When I went through it, it was like, it felt like just me. I know there are other people that were dealing with stuff, but this was weird. It was like, oh my gosh, we're all in the same boat. But I knew the psychological repercussions were going to be pretty significant.
Gotcha. So obviously my show is Crazy Shit in Real Estate, and
yes, I like the title.
Directions. So what has been your personal experience in the real estate space, whether it's as a consumer buying and selling houses, as an investor, or any of those spaces? What's been your general space in the real estate life?
Most of mine has been as a consumer, yes. So I think I can help the ones that are representing understand how, this is such a personal sale. You do not get more personal than this sale.
No, and it's probably the hardest thing for a new realtor to understand is that it is the biggest financial investment most people ever even dream about coming close to. And it is completely fraught with emotion, and there's tears on your shoulder, and you're holding somebody's hand, and then they cuss you out, and then they apologize, and you're in their face, and suddenly they're telling you about their sex lives and their parents, and you're like, we were looking at the kitchen. And so it's really wild space. Then you remember they're going to come home there.
That's right.
Day. The kids are going to get off the school bus there every day. They're going to invite mom over for supper and have girls' night out there. Yep. There's all of these little pieces that intertwine into that 30-year mortgage. It's wild. And it's so hard to explain to people until you're in the middle of it. And then when you're buying and selling, you can even think that you're a pretty rational, intelligent person who knows how to separate your own emotion. And then you start dealing with it and you're like, I don't care what other people said. This is mine. Whoa.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that to use the word dream. I think that says it all. This is a dream, right? And so no more pressure than on the dream that you're trying to help them fulfill. So.
It's like the spouse thing. You're not going to find the perfect spouse, which is part of why I hate mass media and television, because they've trained people to believe perfection exists. It doesn't. It's just, how do you live together, find the best, and keep things moving, which is also the house, because the perfect house doesn't exist either.
Well, that's well said. So I would also imagine this is what I would think listening could really help with, which is, how do you understand what really is the most important priorities versus what are the nice to haves and what are the needs to have, right? And when you sort that out, you probably get to, and I know the market's changed so much, so people are more willing to maybe accept a little less. No.
Oh, they are. They're like, this one's fine. But what happens, though, is they have to lose 3 or 4 times before they let go of the need to have list. And it breaks my heart as a long-term realtor, because I've been in this for 22 years. We used to be able to shop and find something closer. And now it's, I'm sorry, baby, I love you, but this is the one house in your price range in the county. So you either pay too much for it or you don't get a house, and maybe another one will come on, but we don't know. And it's so hard because
so much pressure.
Yeah, letting go of the wish list to get the dream, which is already covered in pressure. Now you have market pressures, and then you have that believability pressure, I think, is part of it too. And some realtors are so skilled at listening and communication and helping people make decisions, and others come across as aggressive and pushy, even if they don't mean to. And I'd love to know from your perspective, when you were working with somebody, what were the telltale signs that what you were saying was sinking in? Because I find that to be a challenge with a lot of salespeople, of they're waiting for you to stop talking so they can start talking, but they're not necessarily absorbing it. Give us the top telltale sign, Christine.
Well, if you're feeling like somebody's talking more than they're listening, the sign is right there, because they probably are. So that's all. So I don't hang out with those people. I wouldn't hire that realtor. I just wouldn't. I only hire people that are better at it. And my standards are even higher than most because I'm so acutely aware of it. But I can give some tips about what anybody can do to help make sure the person feels heard before they feel sold to, or before you have to deliver them bad news. That's really what you're talking about. There's a lot of bad news to deliver right now, or hard news, maybe is a better way to say it.
Oh, I like that. I'm writing down be heard before they're sold to. I had to write that down. That's really good. So
okay, sure. Yes.
Dropping this many gems because I don't remember anything. I have to write things down. All right. So
yeah. So I mean,
hard market. So hang on, what'd you say?
It's hard news, not bad news. I mean, this is hard news, right? You're making really tough. Look, I had a cervical spine injury, and so people would say to me, I would never get spine surgery. And I go, well, not for nothing. I wouldn't either if I wasn't in level 9 pain. But when you have to decide between bad and worse, you decide between bad and worse, right? And so I think that's a little bit of where you're talking about, where people are right now, which is they're in a different market. It's going to be what their most compelling needs are, and it's going to be helping them sort through what those most compelling needs are now, knowing they may change for the future, but for now, this is where they are. So the reality is, I'm sure school districts, how much space, how much availability, price constraints, and moving really quickly, which isn't what people do well in general when it comes to decision making.
Hey, y'all, just going to take a quick break from this conversation to let you know about the sponsor of today's episode. That sponsor is, well, frankly, it's me. It's Leigh Brown University. It's no secret that real estate is crazy competitive, getting more so every day. And that's why I created Leigh Brown University. Each of you has different goals. There's something in my course that's going to help you break through. So enroll in Leigh Brown University today. You go to www.leighbrownu.com and I'll see you there. Now, back to this amazing content. Well, and you made a point, and it might even have been by accident when you were talking about, it kind of just slipped out. You said that it just left my brain. Oh my gosh. I was sitting here desperately trying to remember it and it fell out. It's a good thing I record these shows. I have to go back and find it because it was really, you said something amazing. It was like your whole next book title. Damn.
I'm sure it was by accident. That I'm sure.
Oh, no. I figured it out. I remember it now. And this is why my production team doesn't slice my shows up, because my viewers love this side of the world. Okay. You made the comment about your spine surgery.
Yeah.
Other people said,
I'd never do it. I'd never do it. Yeah.
About your situation where they're putting their space, their biases, their perception into your world without experiencing your world.
Yeah.
I believe I've seen that in real estate a lot, particularly in this market where some realtors are, I mean, they're just beat down by the market, Christine. Like it's
I imagine
that they can't make somebody so excited because it's just so hard.
Yeah.
And then they say, you know what? You're not going to win. There's no reason to buy. And I see it on social media. There's no houses to sell.
Yeah.
Everything multiple offers. And it's whoa. Forgetting that on the other side of those are buyers that are winning with their agents. And so when you're working with people in this listening space, is there a secret sauce or some advice you can give to turn off your own silo and get into theirs?
So what you're onto is, I call it the brain is the enemy of listening, because first of all, we're not taught how to listen. We have 0 years of education on how to do this in our educational system, 0. So we're not, how could we possibly be good at it? I mean, I'm a certified structural family therapist from my first career. I have a master's from a pretty prestigious school, never had a course on listening. I started at 5. So there you go. So that's the difference.
What is structural therapy?
It's a form of family therapy where you work with a family system instead of just an identified patient.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's how to make changes. So I used to go into people's houses. So probably the most experience I've had in real estate is I've been in people's houses. I know how they live. I know what's important, like you do. And I know when you're entering somebody's home or soon to be home, you are entering their personal life in a different way. Everything is exposed and they are raw to you. So this is why it's the differentiator is to make sure you're taking really good care of that and knowing how to navigate it, because it's so personal. And I'm sure it's hard for the agents because people expect so much from you because they're letting you into their personal. And then that's part of maybe they turn on you a little bit sometimes as well in the pressure, right? Yeah.
It's no different than how we treat our best friends, the people you sleep with, your kids, the people closest to you. Get the full you and you let everything out. Yeah. You don't feel like there's a reason to filter it. And we get into that same space with our clients. And I love that phrase that they're raw to us because it's so true. And you're in that space and you're measuring for the bed. And then you got to talk about grandma's china cabinet, which leads them to talk about grandma. And so right. Sideways with the inspection, of course, they come unglued and nobody else is close to that house except for you, the agent. You are like the queen of insights here. All right. So if somebody wanted to learn about listening, where would they even go? Because you mentioned this in the school systems. I rail that the school systems don't teach enough about credit scores.
Yeah, right.
They don't teach these kids how to, I now know I'm old because I call them these kids, how to write a check. But I say that when I want them to write their deposit check and they don't have the foggiest idea how to fill it out. They want a Venmo. And I want to tell them, no, baby, you need to keep a check register so you know how much is in there at any time.
Right.
But if we wanted to be better parents and get our kids to learn how to listen, or as professional adults, where would you suggest as a resource, as a pro in that space?
Well, 2 things. That's part of why I wrote the book as a handbook for anybody. So this is a relationship book. You're in a relationship when you're helping somebody buy a house, for sure. Whether it's with your partner, with your realtor, with your doctor, you're in a relationship. So this is the how-to guide. And then, of course, my company, we provide that training to businesses by consortium. So if 30 of your realtors wanted to learn how to listen differently, we can put a workshop together for those 30 people to teach them how to listen. Yeah.
Well, this is proof I didn't click on your website in advance. I knew about the book. And so I thought you just had the book. I didn't know you did live trainings too. So that's exciting. All right. So before we're going to sell them a bunch of stuff. We're not. I was asking her for real. All right. So we like to tell crazy stories on the show.
Okay.
And I would love to know, and you're going to be able to bring us that perspective that the rest of the world has. And people in the professional space often are like, they think that about us. I'd love to hear what kind of crazy story you brought to the show today. And then before you leave my show, you mentioned how high your bar is for selecting your professional. I want you to step on some toes and tell us exactly what those criteria would be so that those that are involved in the space could challenge themselves to go for a higher level of excellence, which has to happen in today's world. There's no more room for mediocrity, in my personal opinion, but that's because
I'm with you. I think it's a relationship, and relationships, just like you described about the dating or the perfect partner, your realtor's not perfect, the client's not perfect, but it's how do you meet each other and really expect more of each other. So would you like me to start there or?
Start wherever you want to, because obviously we're just meandering around on this episode, which means it's going to be a highly rated one. And y'all can go ahead and start dropping her some love in the comments, because I know you love Christine already like I do.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I'll give you a tip for your listeners as well as part of listening. So what I like is someone who keeps it real. Okay. So I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want you to tell me what I need to hear. That's really important to me. So that's probably the highest bar. Now, I want you to earn the right to do that. So you better understand me first. So those are my 2 requirements. Make sure you know me well, and then be able to tell me what I don't want to hear. So how to do that, by the way, here's the listening kind of tip, if you will. It is really, we have to slow down before we speed up. So what I mean by that is sometimes before we just answer, we have to make sure we reflect and affirm. I'm sure you're asking, what are you looking for? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, right? And why? You're probably asking those questions, I would imagine. The good realtors are, right?
Well, I'm a little different. I ask them, where do you spend the most time in your house?
Even better question, right?
That's going to tell me way much things.
That's a much more open-ended question, right? But then once they tell you, it's reflecting what you heard. Oh, you spend the most time in the kitchen because that's where home is to you. That's where love is to you. You get a lot of emotional answers out of that, don't you?
Yes.
Right. But when you reflect that and not just listen to it, but really just hear it, but you reflect it back, kind of capture it in 30 to 90 seconds, you cement that in a different way. So reflecting and then affirming, do I get you, are 2 of the tools of the listening path that we call it. It's the path to understanding. So you ask the question, you do a 30 to 90 second summary of what you heard, facts and feelings, and then you ask, do I get you? And what will happen is somebody will be like, yes, you get me. Or, well, yes, but also, la, 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 and they tell you more. And then you really start to engage in a different kind of conversation. When you do that first, now you start to earn the right to say, now I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear. This house doesn't have the kitchen of your dreams. You may think it's the right house, but I don't think you're going to like it because there's more space here than here, even though you think it's okay. Are you settling? Then you open up a different dialogue.
I love that. Do I get you? I wrote that down too. Sit my little notes here, y'all. You know how this works.
We call that the water filter. So the listening path is what we call our workshop, and it's in the book. And part of why we call it the path to listening is it's like you wouldn't go out on a hike for 3 weeks backpacking without any tools in your backpack, right? You wouldn't survive.
I wouldn't go out backpacking.
I can see that. I respect that. I put me in a hotel overnight. But if you had to, you would go prepared. You seem like a woman who goes prepared. We go into conversations unprepared. So you talked about the story that's in your own head. Well, that's one of the things that gets in the way. When you use this is what we call the water filter, things get contaminated on the path, and your own story contaminates the story of your clients. So you have to make sure you're filtering it. And when you filter it and make sure I get you, now I know it's your story, not mine.
Oh my gosh, y'all better make sure and clip this little snippet out. This belongs on all the channels because Christine, you're freaking awesome. All right. So now that you've told us more about that space, tell us about that one time in real estate before I let you off the show, because I could totally keep you here for 3 hours, but that would be abusing your time.
Well, this was one of the things I appreciated about my realtor. I used to own a home. I went through a divorce and then I decided to rent, and I was fairly new at the renting experience. So I have a guy, his name's Alex. He's fantastic. And we're in this house in the woods, this older house. It's beautiful. It's in this beautiful setting, but there's trees everywhere, like around me that look like they're about to fall in the house. So we go back to the bedroom and we're looking, where would I put the bed? That's so funny you said that earlier. Like, where would I put my bed? And he looks out the window and he goes, let's see which tree is least likely to fall on you in the middle of the night, right? But it was so honest. It was so honest. He wasn't, look, I knew the tree may or may not fall in the house. I mean, it was there for a long time. But the fact that he was so real with me and was able to kind of not try to pretend, he wasn't worried about the sale. He was just worried about making sure I felt comfortable in the place. It was beautiful. That made me want the house even more, frankly, than less. So I rented that space and I had it for over a year. And it was really one of the best places I was ever in.
And I bet you took out renter's insurance and life insurance. Alex didn't tell us, but he was secretly an insurance salesman on the side.
It was very funny. But I've used him and I've referred him to many, many people because he tells me what I want to hear and what I need to hear. He's not afraid to challenge me.
Well, and it's that connective tissue, right? So you mentioned the bed, and he immediately connected it to trees outside the window, which would not be what you would expect somebody to point out. You'd expect them to only measure the wall for the bed instead of thinking about, even if it's kind of half comedic.
Oh, he was, yeah, it was.
We have to laugh about our jobs, but it was a true connective tissue, which I think that's what demonstrates to somebody that you have been listening. And sometimes it just pops out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Like pops out of nowhere to come on the podcast and give us all this great info. So Christine, if somebody wants to buy your book, I see it behind you. And don't worry, friends, we're going to have a link in the show notes for the episode. So you can go click and buy it. You can also go to Amazon, make a screenshot and take it to your local bookstore. They'll bring it in for you. Hint, hint, hint.
Yes.
And so if somebody wants to find you, though, and learn more about your workshops or the coaching that you provide on listening, what's the best way for them to find information and connect with you?
They can find me on social media at C Miles Listens, and I'm following you as well. So there'll be a connector there. And or my website, which is EQuipt, and that's EQuipt, because we equipped people with the human skills, -people.com.
Oh, I like that human skill. So listening is a human skill?
It is, yes.
I like it. What are the other human skills?
Well, how to tell your story, how to personally connect, how to show up with passion and purpose, really your EQ, all of those things. Yeah, we do a little bit of everything there.
Okay, so I know you all wrote down like 5 little Christine gems too. Drop it in the comments. Give her some love. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you can come back for more episodes. And don't forget all of her handles and links from the show notes for this episode. And I can't wait to connect with you in person at some point.
Likewise.
I would love to get you to come to North Carolina and do some workshop for us on listening. So we'll be in touch with that.
I would love that too. Thank you for having me.
All right, friends, if you enjoyed the show, you know the rules. Subscribe, like, give us 5 stars, and most importantly, come back again where we'll see you on Crazy Shit. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more Crazy Shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.